Welcome back to Maya 2018 Basics. Today we're going to take a look at non-linear deformers. And there are a few. There's about 5 or 6 of non-linear deformers. What's great about these, you don't have to do a great deal of modeling. You just adjust all of the different attributes that come along with each non-linear deformer. And on top of everything else, you can animate it, which we'll show you in another separate video. You can also add multiple nonlinear deformers on each object, and on top of that, you can change the order of those deformers once you've applied them to the object. Let's take a look. Deform. We're going to go in the Deform menu, Nonlinear, and then let's tear this off. Let's start with the first one. Control 1 to isolate, and we're going to bend. I'm not going to take a look at any of these settings. Because they're all pretty standard, and we're going to, and they're also going to be found in the attribute editor and the channel box. But if you want to take a look, there are some other little things that you can do with the bend. But today is just going to be a very basic introduction to these nonlinear deformers. All right, so we've put the bend here. We can see it in the outliner. We can also adjust these in the inputs of the channel editor as well as the attribute editor, where it is found under the bend 1, low bound, high bound, curvature, things of that nature. I'm going to stick with the channel box here. Another great way to adjust it is to go into, well, once you select the bend, you want to hit T, and then it gives you the manipulator right there. There's your high bound. There's your low bound, and then you can curve it. Look at that. Oh, you're so pretty. You're like a macaroni. Yes, you are. So there you go. Very straightforward. Again, you can start to manipulate the high and the low as much as you want, and also the curvature. So that's pretty nice. Okay, that's bend. Let's go into this. Control 1. Let's hit flare. Flare has a few other different things. So you can affect the radius of the top. You can affect the radius of the bottom. And let's see what else. You can affect the flare. Okay. So let's say you just want to affect, let's say this little part. Let's say you just want to get kind of chubby in the middle. Well, you can do that. So a lot of different applications that you can apply to this, especially with respect to animation, but even just changing the shape of your model in a very quick and efficient way. Okay, moving on to Sine. Now, Sine's a little bit trickier. You want to play around with this, but there are a couple of different features. This, of course, would be your, actually, let's take a look right here. As we move these manipulators around, that's our wavelength. Okay, you can move it up or down, up or down. That's going to affect your wavelength. We can actually go into wireframe mode, and let's go back to our Sine and see what we can do here. This right here is going to affect our, this is our high bound as usual, our low bound here, and then this is going to be our amplitude, so you can move it left to right. Another really cool effect that you can mess with is your offset. Now, some of these things are going to be easier to manipulate in the manipulator here, or easier to manipulate over here. So for example, if I make a drop off of -1 and I bring this low bound up a little bit, and I can start manipulating the offset. Another thing to keep in mind, if I'm manipulating this over here and I middle mouse click, it's going to affect the last thing that I selected over here while I was using this. So you have to hit Q, get out of there, and now you can start manipulating your offset. So look at that. That's kind of cool. Now, why is that cool? Well, because if we put a drop off of -1, we've got an effect like a tail, whereas this is relatively stationary in the sense that it's not moving in a wave, or a flag, or anything that would require one area to be stationary or static and the other one to be moving. So there's your animation there. Pretty cool. All right. Next one up is our squash. A squash. So let's take a look at squash. We've got our, let's see if we can get our manipulator up. This is our high bound. Let's take a look. High bound, you'll see these numbers start to move. High bound, if you notice the numbers here to the right. Our low bound, check out the numbers moving. It's a good way to tell what you're dealing with here. That's your max expand position. And then, of course, your factor. Now, there's some other things that you can manipulate here, like smoothness, start smoothness, end smoothness. But for the most part, you can kind of play with it. Play with these different values and such. And you can begin to see a really cool deformation there with squash. You can use, sphere. You can use any of these primitives and apply that deformer to kind of play around and see what you get. The next one, no. Did I add it? No, I didn't add it. Okay, thank goodness gracious. The next one we're going to take a look at is twist. Now, this doesn't have any subdivisions, so let's add some. Let's add a bunch. Just to make sure. Let's be on the safe side here. Okay? All right. Is that enough? Yeah, let's add plenty here. Okay, I think we're good. All right, so now let's do that. Let's do Control 1 and let's twist. Like we did last summer. Okay, that was unnecessary. And hit T, and you'll begin to see that we can do the twist. Come on. Come on. Let me twist you. There we go. So we start to see the twist. And if we want to go into shading, smooth all, we can really start to see it. Start to see the twist. You start to see the twist, man. Look at that twisting. We're twisting all over the place. Now, based on how many subdivisions you may have in here, that's going to affect the smoothing and the deformation all in all. Okay, so there's your twist. And then, of course, if we look at some of the other things, it's pretty basic. You got your high bound, your low bound, your start angle, and your end angle. All right, that's twist. And finally, there is another one. There's some other deformers, by the way. But let's add some subdivisions here. Let's add a bunch. Let's add 20 and 20. Okay, make sure you add subdivisions. That's the real key here. Okay? Add subdivisions, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, now let's add the wave. Make sure that's selected. Add the wave. Instead of using the manipulator, though, I'm going to just go in here and see if we can affect, whoa, boom, the amplitude. That is the wavelength. Bloop. Offset will allow movement. Look at that. Glook, 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 glook. Okay, so that's animation. We can animate that if we want. We just set keyframes to it, and away we go. I'm going to show you in the next video. Okay, but not in this. This is, again, just an intro to the different deformations. So pretty cool stuff. Again, like I mentioned, we are going to have, I'm going to show you how to put multiple deformations on an object, change the order of them, and also animate in the next video. But for now, we just learned 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different ways to do nonlinear deformations. I might even throw in an added bonus deformation in the next video as well. Trying to keep them nice and short, quick and easy, and hopefully we learn many different things as we venture forth into the world of Maya and our creative minds exploding in a three-dimensional landscape. Thanks a lot, everyone. Have a great day.